Okay everybody, welcome back to Free America. Today we're going to talk about some really neat, absolutely iconic, extremely recognizable and widely used styles of combat knives. So what you see in front of you right now are three different versions of the Sykes Fairbairn Commando knife. So this knife was adopted by the British military for its commandos in June of 1940. But the knife actually has a much longer history. It goes back into the 1930s. So this knife is called the Sykes Fairbairn knife. And Sykes and Fairbairn were a couple of guys who worked in Shanghai, China in the 1920s and 30s as police officers. So during their time as police officers in an extremely violent city of Shanghai, highly crime-ridden city, they developed and adopted this style of knife. Now there's a lot of different variations on this type of knife. I'm only going to show you three of them right now, and these are all modern, okay? These are type 3 pattern Fairbairn knives, Sykes Fairbairn knives, and there are others. So if you're interested in learning about the knives, there's a couple of good books that I want to recommend. One of them is this knife by Leroy Thompson, or excuse me, this book by Leroy Thompson about the Sykes Fairbairn knife. And let me see. It's got some pretty decent illustrations. It talks about the early patterns. Shows them being issued, right, to British Commandos during the Second World War. And here we see our heroes, Sykes and Fairbairn. So that's a good one. Another good one is this Allied Military Fighting Knives by Robert Berlin. So Robert is the guy who runs Eck knives. He's a fine historian, and this book is full of examples of different types of Sykes Fairbairn knives. And other cool knives. So that's a good one. And if you want to read about the kind of guys that were using these knives in World War II, you should try this one, Pegasus Bridge. This is from the mid-'80s, written by Stephen Ambrose when he was, in the beginning of writing World War II history books. Good book. It talks about glider commandos. So this knife right here was my first knife. It has the standard, British military style sheath. It's a little worse for wear. It's seen some carry and use over the years. I don't want to misidentify it that I actually used it on anybody. I never have, but I have carried this knife for years and years. So I'll show you a clearer picture of this if I can. Anyway, I'll show you a picture. So this is a bronze handle, cast bronze handle with a cast bronze nut and the steel blade. And this is a British military issue knife. This one is also a British military issue knife. Again, same style of handle. It's got only this one is cast aluminum. It's got some markings here that I'll show you pictures of, and it's got markings on the hilt, including a good clear broad arrow. Now, I've never actually carried this one. I acquired it in a trade from a British soldier, and it has a slightly different style of scabbard, which I think is pretty cool. It hangs very low, and you can strap it down. Of course, I've never carried it. And the very last one, as you can see, it's got this British style of scabbard. You can tell it's much cheaper made. The tip down here is actually made of plastic. Believe it or not, these elastic bands are in fact the way these are made. But this knife is new. It's again a third pattern, right? Cast. I'm not sure what this is. I believe it's some sort of steel. It's heavier than bronze or aluminum. It does not have a separate nut on it. And here's the interesting thing. Let's see if you can see that or not. Guess not. I'll show you another picture of that. So this knife is made in Pakistan. So the Pakistani military actually uses this knife, as do many, many other militaries around the world. Now, the U.S. Marine Corps adopted a very similar knife during World War II, and so did the first U.S. Canadian Special Service Force. Slightly different variants, and I don't have either of those knives, so I'll show you pictures of them. But again, it's pretty clear that this is a proven style of double-edged dagger used to, bluntly, frankly, to stab people, right? So that's what it's designed for. Unfortunately, it's really not good for very much else. I have, like I said, the knife on the right, I've carried it around the planet a few times. Luckily, I've never stabbed anybody with it, and it's not worth a damn for opening MREs or ammo boxes or anything like that. So it pretty much just hangs on my gear and it looks pretty. You know, like I said, it's very iconic. Everybody goes, ooh, ah, you know, Sykes Fairbairn knife. Wow, that's cool. I will talk about some other Sykes, or some other knives. So in the next video, I'm going to do, my dog is behind me grunting. I'm going to do a video on the Applegate Fairbairn knives. So Rex Applegate was an OSS officer during World War II who worked with W.E. Fairbairn, who was also an OSS officer during World War II. And they developed a slightly different style of knife, and I'll show you those as well. And one of them actually is a U.S. military issue knife. So thanks for joining me today. I really appreciate it. Oh, just so in case anybody asked, the camouflage in the background is a World War II camouflage pattern, British military paratrooper jump smock, which is what commandos and paratroopers wore. Of interest, this is a quote-unquote reproduction. It's actually made in Pakistan because the Pakis still wear this. So I thought that was pretty cool. I picked one up. I mean, it's not exactly like the World War II ones, but it's, you know, the coloring is off a little bit. But hey, I can't afford a real one. They're in the many hundreds of dollars. And if I had a real one, I wouldn't ever use it. And this one I wouldn't be afraid to actually wear out into the woods. So again, thanks for joining me. Thanks for hanging around with Free America. If this video was entertaining, please give me a thumbs up if you like this kind of stuff. And If you think it sucks, give me a thumbs down, and either way, leave me a comment. I'm no expert on collecting these knives. These knives, the 3 that you see in front of you, are intended for use. So on the Pakistani one, the blade itself is actually made out of stainless steel. So with a little bit of naval jelly, that black paint comes right off, and the stamp where it says Stainless Pakistan will come off as well. So it can be shaped and sharpened and repainted and work beautifully, and they're relatively inexpensive. So if you're in a bad situation and you have to leave it stuck in somebody, no big deal. And you know, just go to Smoky Mountain Knife Works, get another one. And thanks again, guys. Free America. God bless America.